Hey guys, it's Ruben. I'm in my garage here. We're going to talk about the differences between a Gen 2 and a Gen 3, the zx10R. I own them both, so I thought it'd be a good video to make. They're both fast. So notice the similarities of the dash. One thing different about the Gen 3 from the Gen 2 is the Gen 3 has a gear indicator. The Gen 2 does not. But the triple trees and the steering damper, the controls are very similar. This is the Gen 2, and as you can see, the gear indicator is missing. Once you have it, it's pretty nice to have, so I do like it, but it isn't really necessary to have a good time on a motorcycle. And then there's the dash and the Olens, so they do look identical. There's the two tails of the ZX10s. Looks pretty good. Here's the Gen 3 tail. I did put one of those solo tails from eBay, so the fitment isn't, the best, but I think it gives it a good overall look. Stock exhaust, stock everything really on this bike, except for the master cylinder. Notice the mirrors on the Gen 3 fold in. This is actually a pretty cool feature because you can see the adjustment is here. So you can fold them in and out without having to readjust the mirrors. Whereas, the old style mirror, if you fold them in, then you have to readjust them. So I kind of like that feature when I park them. In the garage, especially close to the other bikes, I do fold them in, so I like that feature. The two from the back, you see the Gen 2 has the dual undertail exhaust, means it's a little hotter under your seat, and the Gen 3 has the single on the side, more traditional. Here you can see the exhaust. It's still, a ways away from the seat, but it's heat, generated regardless. Whereas the Gen 3 has nothing under there. Here you can see the tire size difference between the Ninja 250 and, well, the Gen 2 and Gen 3 have the same tire size. So look at the profile of the windscreens. I do think the Gen 3 provides a little bit more wind protection when you're, upright, riding in a more casual position. But, it goes for the looks too. I think the Gen 3 is edgier and the Gen 2 is a little sleeker design. So the Gen 2, when I ride it, like in the city, I feel more like a badass. I feel like it has more smooth torque, like it's easier to ride in the city. It just, power away from stoplights and stop signs. It's just a really smooth linear power. Maybe it's gearing, maybe it's the power commander, that gives it this feeling, but the power's very smooth. And I've ridden these bikes back to back, so, try to, notice the difference. But I've taken, the Gen 2 out, and then followed it by the Gen 3, and the Gen 3 is a lot more explosive still, which, makes sense with what I'm saying with the Gen 2 having smoother linear power. But that explosiveness, looking at the top speed you achieve, you can hit, 160 with these bikes, no problem. But I do think the Gen 3 makes it there quicker. And I believe reading magazine in 2008, the Gen 3, first year, of this bike, it was the quickest bike to 180 miles an hour, faster than the Hayabusa and the ZX14, or quicker, I should say. So I do love the Gen 2, just because, I don't know, riding it just makes me feel like a badass. It's louder. It feels quicker in city streets than the Gen 3. If you read Kawasaki forums, you notice that Kawasaki brakes sometimes lose, their feel. This one has been upgraded to a Magura front master cylinder. That YouTube video's up on my channel. This one is still stock, but has shorty levers. It feels really good. This is the stock Nissan master cylinder. Let's see. Oil changes I think are easier to do on the Gen 2. As far as driving around on twisties, the Gen 3 zx10R, it is awesome. I mean, the power is awesome. The handling, I love the handling. Just very, easy to fling into corners. Just a very good handling bike. You can ride it fast, lean off the bike and drag knee if you want. Probably be a dangerous track day bike just because of how much power it has. I feel like you could get into trouble very quickly with it. But you guys know your own abilities and capabilities, so if this is what you want a track day, by all means. And the handling of the Gen 2 is very similar as well. I think the Gen 3 has a slight edge on it, but I've ridden the Gen 3 a lot more than I have the Gen 2, so maybe my opinion would change over time, but I'm pretty confident I'd choose the Gen 3 over the Gen 2 in handling. Lights, they also look pretty similar. To me, the Gen 2 is more comfortable to ride. It just seems smoother and a more comfortable seating position. I'm not sure exactly why that is. So between the Gen 2 and the Gen 3, I'd say if you have a Gen 2, it's probably not worth upgrading to a Gen 3. As far as the like trunk space, don't get your hopes up. There's the power commander. I'd say you can fit a pair of gloves in here. I do like the key being here. It's similar to the Ninja 250 also. The key on this one though is underneath. And actually that trunk does look a little bit bigger, just because it has a little bit more depth. See, I got a park tool, and then the factory tool kit's in there. No power commander. If you put a power commander in the same spot on this one, it'd probably, take up less or take up more room. So that's both of the tails. The Gen 2 is, physically a larger tail, wider, longer, whereas the Gen 3 is narrower and, pointier, shorter. Let's start each one. Hasn't been started in a while, so it's a little slow there. That's the single side running lamp. The Gen 3 is the same. They're both stock exhausts. I think the Gen 2 is louder from the factory. So it looks like they shared a lot of the same parts. Between the two, even though the chassis and the body and motor are all supposedly different. The Gen 2 has throttle response. Two ZX10s. It's the Gen 3 running. I love having them both. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Hope you found it informative.